everyone, and welcome to the White Gold Corp live event hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce the speakers for today: David D'Onofrio, the CEO, Terry Brace, the VP Exploration, and Cam Norton, the Exploration Manager and Geologist. They will provide an overview of the drill program, go over today's drill results, and after that, we'll be accepting questions. As a reminder, you can submit your questions in the chat at any point during the presentation. As always, this summit is being recorded and will be available shortly afterwards. Without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to you, Dave, so that we can get started.
Great. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today. Really thrilled to talk and give a little more overview on what's another exceptional hole from our Betty 4 target on our Betty property. Today's results, as you saw in the press release, was 5 grams per ton over 25 meters. This was basically nearly right from surface. It represented a very significant increase and extension of the north-south dimensions of this high-grade breccia body we've been drilling now for the last couple of years, and it's also now extended these ultra-high grades right to the eastern extension of the breccia from what we've drilled so far to date. So couldn't be more pleased with what we've seen in this drill hole. Fantastic job by our technical team to identify the continued high-grade extensions of this target. So congratulations to them, and they're online here to walk you through in a little more detail what we've seen. As a reminder, White Gold Corp, we are focused in the illustrious White Gold district of the Yukon. This was the Klondike area, made infamous 125 years ago for the Klondike gold rush. There's been over 20 million ounces of gold mined, placer mined from surface, with very little hard rock exploration done until just recently. And it was the White Gold team that's been responsible for 2 major hard rock discoveries in the district. And White Gold now owns the Golden Saddle deposit, which has just recently been increased to 2.1 million ounces at around 2 grams per ton. That's an exceptional deposit. And to be able to have that type of a deposit in a tier 1 mining jurisdiction like the Yukon is something we're very proud of, and something very unique in the junior precious metal space. So that's sort of our flagship deposit. You see it here on the map. White Gold boasts a true district scale land package, 350,000 hectares. And, we are, what I believe is literally just scratching the surface. And the work that we've done in the past to make these significant discoveries is really helping us guide our exploration endeavors to make more and more discoveries. So as a company, I think we're well balanced. We have the meat on the bones, this exceptional deposit, which is open for expansion in many regards on the deposit itself, as well as new zones. In the last couple of years, we've identified a new zone on the Ryan's Trend, which is materializing to add significant amount of gold ounces to our deposit. This sits along a 6-kilometer trend, which has seen almost no testing to date, and we're very encouraged by the ability to find additional ounces of gold in that area. Obviously, being so close to our flagship deposit makes it economically a very high interest. And then the other half of our program is really looking for blue sky, grassroots, new discoveries. We've been very successful in that regard as well, making a couple of those over the last number of years, one of which being on our Betty property that we're going to be talking about today. This property, just to put into some context, you see it sort of towards the bottom of the map there. It is contiguous to Newmont's Coffee Project. That's an exceptional gold discovery made by our technical team, actually, that Newmont is currently advancing towards production there into the permitting phase. And it's just a real sign, I think, of confidence in this district. We have the largest gold mining company in the world making this type of investment. And our property there is right along the same fault structure which hosts that deposit. It's very encouraging. This area also is host to the Casino deposit, one of the largest copper gold deposits in the world. We're contiguous to that as well. So this is truly elephant country. We are just scratching the surface of a new target on this property. We're hitting by far the highest grades ever seen in this area. And this is just one target on this property. So really everything you could hope for on a grassroots target, you're in the right area. There's stuff going on. There's been a lot of success. and the people that have been involved with the success in the area are now driving the program in this regard. So couldn't be happier. I'm going to turn it over to the guys now, give you a little bit more detail on the target, the work that's been done, what we're seeing, and why we're so excited.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'll take the next couple of slides just sort of to set up a regional context, I guess. As Dave pointed out, Newmont's Coffee Deposit is located just off to the west, about 40 kilometers. You can see the yellow star there on the left side of the map. And then that deep blue line that you can see, basically that's a Coffee Creek fault that extends from the Coffee Deposit all the way out to the east, where our Betty Ford target is located. So basically the property is located right on that major structure. We have a number of splays as well coming off that. So, you know, we really like the geological environment. You can see Casino, the Western Copper and Gold's porphyry deposit, quite large, about 15 kilometers away. So, you know, from a geological context, we really like the setting, good structure, intrusive activity, and so on. So we feel we have all the right ingredients, I think, for some major deposits. This is just a property map showing some of the targets that have been identified. You know, some are the one down in the lower right. That's a more of an intrusive related one we call the Mascot. Again, you know, some really encouraging results from that one. Our focus really over the last 3 years has been on Betty Ford. You know, we initially RAB drilled that back in 2018. First indication of gold at that target was 1 gram per ton over about 50 meters in one of the first RAB holes. So, you know, we've known there's been gold there for a few years, but like I said, since 2021, we've been doing diamond drilling, really developing a much better understanding of what the controls are, the host rocks, and so on. And then in addition to that, you can see like the Betty Black target is off to the west, the Betty Grable. So basically, it's a large property with a number of different targets, and really most of these targets have, you know, only been just scratched the surface kind of thing. So very little exploration. This is a drill plan map showing, you know, some of the highlights of our drilling. Again, like I said, when we originally drilled this back in 2018 with the RAB, we didn't understand that the host rock was actually a breccia unit. We drilled it back in 2021 for the first time with the diamond drill, and you know, really started to understand it much better. And so far, I mean, we've traced the breccia for about 500 meters along strike. We've encountered high-grade surface gold over about 175 meters. Again, you know, some of the they're still open along strike. This year we drilled 4 holes with a number of different goals. We had a few questions. One, our model basically suggested that there may be a buried porphyry within that breccia unit. There's a lot of porphyry fragments. So we drilled about a 500 meter long hole, basically trying to test that. Hole 12 was basically testing a possible feeder structure. So we've released those results in September. Again, you know, near surface, we're getting some really high grades. The subject that is current news release is hole 14, shown there sort of in the middle of the map. And again, you know, some really nice results, about 3 grams over about 46.5 meters. And then within that, there's a much higher sub interval of 5 grams over about 25 meters. So again, you know, we're really, you know, continuing to intersect these high grades. And I think, you know, over the last 2 years in particular, we've really started to understand some of the controls and the nature of the gold mineralization much better. We think oxidation of the breccia is playing a role. So anyway, like I said, all told, I think over the last 3 years, we drilled about 3,500 meters. So still not a large amount of drilling, but like I said, we feel like we have a much better handle now, I think, on what's going on. And the goal for the future, of course, is to try to continue tracing these things out and expanding on it. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Cam Norton, our exploration manager. Cam is sort of looked at the geology very closely of this thing. So anyway, Cam, feel free to introduce the next slides.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, thank you, Terry. So just carrying on with what Terry was saying there, this is just a cross-section now of hole 14. And exactly what Terry was saying, some really nice grades we see coming out of this hole across the entire portion of the oxide domain, almost 3 grams over 46.5 meters. And then internal to that, we're starting to see this really nice high-grade core that's starting to come through, in this case, 5 grams over 25 meters. So really, we're seeing this extension of this high-grade mineralization in the eastern portion of the breccia. So really excited about that. And also quite interesting that came out of this hole is we actually didn't anticipate collaring directly into the breccia. But you can see in the map here, the hole collared right into the mineralization and the zone. So what that effectively has done is actually widened the zone trace itself too. We know further to the west, drilling in hole 12 this year, we also intersected the breccia further to the south than we anticipated. And that gave us about a true width, what we think to be around 95 meters now. And if we carry that interpretation to the east around hole 14, we're looking about the same. So currently we've benchmarked, we said it's about a 75 meter wide zone, that area, but I think that there is still room to continue growing that width to the south as well. So really excited about that. One of the big takeaways that's come out of the drilling this year is the zone looks like to be wider than we previously thought. So with that, we can start looking at some core photos as well, and we can see what this looks like in terms of the oxidation. So this is an interesting photo here. So we actually took this with our drone. We laid out all the drill core on the ground and just took a drone photo from above just to really see and demonstrate this, one of the key components of mineralization being the oxide. So you can see in that upper third, we have this really strong oxidation coming through, nice gold mineralization. Then you step down a little bit into what we're calling the transition zone, and we get into about 5 grams over 25 meters worth of mineralization. So all told, across the mineralization here, we're getting the zone about 3 grams over 50 meters of gold mineralization. So really impressive results. And again, this just really helps to demonstrate, I think, some of this impact that we're seeing as well from the oxide domain, really helping to increase the tenor of the gold results. And then now just looking at that, just directly in the drill core itself, looking at some closer up photos here. So it's just the top of the hole. You can really see the strong oxidation. And then as we start progressing down the hole here, we'll see the brown start to kind of disappear, becomes a bit less oxidized. We're now entering into the transitional domain, and grades start to really increase. So we're looking, 4 to kind of 1.5 grams per ton of gold. This is again our polylithic breccia. So really polylithic just meaning a whole bunch of different rock types within a matrix of rock flour. So here we're seeing now the oxidation has kind of become this more of an orangey color, and now we're entering into the top part of our transitional domain, continuing to see grades increase some more, still within our polylithic breccia. And as we continue on down hole, now we start to see in some of these pink colors here, another stepwise increase in our gold grades. You can also see that looks to be associated with more of a higher concentration of matrix. So if you look at the rocks above, the clasts are a lot larger. And now we're into more of the matrix dominated breccia. Your clasts are smaller, but you have more of this fine grained, almost rock flour hosting or holding these rocks together. And that combined with the location of the oxide domain seems to be a really nice host to this higher grade mineralization. So we're seeing another increase in grade. Now we're looking at almost, scratching 10 grams per ton of gold. And I believe on the next slide, we start to see even up to, we're tickling 20 grams per ton, 10 grams, 20 grams, really nice gold mineralization. And really within, you see that higher grade and that nice, competent, robust portion of this matrix supported polylithic breccia. It's also interesting to note too, within this breccia, we're seeing a couple different types of porphyry class. And as Terry mentioned, one of the reasons that we were drilling this year was really looking for what's driving the system at depth. And typically, from our understanding of these breccia types, you'd expect to see a porphyry at depth, which is really that driving engine for the gold mineralization. And so we're currently age dating these breccia class just to see too if there's any relationship with the Casino deposit, which is just 15 kilometers to the southwest. So we know there's a lot going on in this neighborhood. There's probably no surprise that we should be seeing these types of these gold deposits, or gold targets rather, in this area, because we do have such a potential strong heat engines and other deposit types nearby. So how does this relate to Casino? We don't know yet, but it's something that we're really looking into, and how we can start kind of tying this genesis together and what is really driving and causing the source mineralization that we're seeing here. And then now we're exiting out of the oxide domain and just further down into the sulfide domain itself here. You can start to see we're having much more of a class supported matrix again. In this area, the grades start to become lower. But now within this sulfide domain too, based on these target types, we can hope or expect to see potentially later deeper at depth or other portions of the breccia, some feeder structures that are coming through and bringing that gold from what we interpret as being a porphyry at depth, essentially acting as that feeder, bringing the gold to surface or closer to surface, higher up in the breccia, where we're seeing the this gold in the oxide domain. So that's another key target for us, is to continue drilling, also in targeting the sulfide domain, looking for these feeder structures, which can allow a lot more depth potential as well for us as we continue to move forward. I think that's with all the core that I have to offer. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to David D'Onofrio here, and he can wrap things up for us there.
Thanks, guys. That was a great overview. Congratulations again. Just a fantastic result. It's so exciting to see this target coming together the way it has. And these types of grades are just exceptional. And to be able to be finding them at surface in Canada, in an area that I think is going to be one of the newest gold camps in Canada and globally, it's just a great place to be. Again, as I mentioned, the fact that we see probably half a dozen different majors now making significant investments into the Yukon, particularly in this area, including Newmont, our neighbor, Rio with Western Copper, Hecla, B2 Gold. I think that should tell people sort of what the type of opportunity is here. It's really rare to be able to sort of have an area with this type of prolific exploration upside that's seen so little work in such a great jurisdiction. And we're just feel so blessed to be able to have such a large land package with a team that's been there for over 15 years now. They've been able to be extremely successful in the discovery of 2 large gold deposits. We have the benefit of the White Gold Saddle deposit, which is 2.1 million ounces with unlimited upside at this point in time, and these great grassroots opportunities like the Betty that are, to be frank, exceeding my own expectation. These types of high grades are just remarkable, and congratulations again on being able to continue to hit them.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention too, for anyone who's attending Yukon Geoscience coming up, I think it's on the 19th to the 22nd, Cam's going to be giving a presentation on Betty Ford where he'll dive maybe a little deeper into the geology. So anyone who can attend, please take in Cam's talk. I think you'll be quite interested. These are very photogenic rocks. Most geologists that look at them spend a lot of time looking at them. So anyway, we're looking forward to seeing Cam's talk coming up. So yeah.
All right, perfect. Let's get right into questions. So first of all, we have a question here. Are you any closer to the feeder zone at Betty?
Sorry, what was the question again? Are we close to the feeder zone?
Yeah, are you any closer to the feeder zone at Betty?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, and I guess from the breccia, the breccia is really our host unit, and we know from drilling this year it has a large vertical extent. Like the 500-meter hole that we drilled, basically we bottomed out in breccia. So We have started to intersect some lower grade gold mineralization within deeper levels of that breccia, probably up to about maybe Cam, half a gram or a gram or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think we're starting to see signs of gold mineralization deeper down, but in terms of the actual feeder, we're still, I would say we're still probably trying to figure that one out. We really haven't located it yet. Cam, I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly. I think we're seeing signs of some structures. Some of the gold mineralization we're seeing, it seems to be relatively clustered more to the west, which could indicate a possible feeder that we're seeing. Now, how far we can start tracing that at depth to that breccia or to the porphyry rather, that's something that we really want to start looking into in more detail on how far we can trace that depth, and do we start picking up some higher grade ore shoots that can really pull together a lot of ounces as well too down in the sulfide domain.
Yeah, I think, in looking at this year's drilling as well, that was one of the goals of this year's drilling, was to see, the grades can vary anywhere from like a gram and a half up to 5-10 grams. So the question is, what's controlling those higher grades, and why are some areas a gram or a gram and a half, and other areas 5-10 grams plus? So again, we've only drilled about 3,500 meters in diamond drilling over the last 3 years, so still a relatively small amount of drilling, and we're, I'm happy with the way I think each year we've drilled it. We come away with a better understanding of what those controls are, but it takes time. So yeah, but I think, like you say, we're slowly getting a better handle on it, I think.
Perfect. Thanks for the answer. This is a statement followed by a question. So these intercepts look like they might not be true width. What needs to be done to be able to determine true width?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think one of the things that is important to recognize is that the breccia unit, which is the host, has a large vertical extent, and but the gold zone itself, when you look at it, it's relatively flat lying. So most of the holes that we've drilled, it can be, I think probably the maximum might be 50 or 55 meters. But we really haven't seen a huge variation in the thickness of the gold zone. So, it obviously is not true thickness, but I don't think is, I don't really have a number like in terms of percentage, but where it's a relatively flat lying zone, I don't think it's too bad. Cam, I don't know if you can quantify it better than that, but.
Oh, I think that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at some of the sections and you see that breccia extending down 500 meters, like I think I saw one comment that we drilled down it. That was the hole that was chasing the porphyry. And so, it's important, like I said, to draw a distinction between the breccia unit itself and the actual gold zone, which is in the upper portion of that breccia.
Yeah. Perfect. We had a question come in via email here. So there's also there's an asterisk in table 1 that these gold assays are not capped. Can you explain your logic behind not capping them?
Cam, do you want to take that one?
Thank you. Go for it there, Terry.
Okay. No, like in mineral resources, sometimes when obviously we're not at the mineral resource stage, but if you get extremely high assays in isolated areas, it can really skew the resources. So by capping, and again, it's all based on, it's driven by statistics, but you tend to cap some of those extremely high grades so that, you're getting a more, I guess, realistic expectation for the resource itself. But, basically what we're presenting in our table are uncapped assays. So, if we had 25 grams in a sample, that's captured in the composite. We haven't capped anything. And
yeah, just to add to that, from my experience of probably reading, 20 different press releases a day, I think they're generally always not capped on drill results.
That's right, Dave.
Most people just don't make that annotation.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to be transparent, like basically to let the market know and investors know that, hey, like none of these assays are capped. What they see basically is what came back from the lab after it goes through QA, QC, and so on, right? So,
which is always the case.
Really, just to elaborate on that, it's like Terry says, when you get to that resource stage and you're running your geostatistics, you're making sure that those higher grades aren't unduly biasing your resource to the high grade side. And so you're bringing those down, essentially normalizing your resource a bit more. But that comes with a lot more drilling, a lot of geostatistics and math to see what that appropriate level is. And we're not at that point yet. And that really comes in once you're at the resource stage, like Terry says.
So what are some next steps in advancing Betty Ford? There you go.
Dave, do you want to handle?
Yeah, this is relatively brand new discovery. It's only been the last couple of years I've seen significant amounts of work, so it remains wide open. I think it could use definitely warrants much more exploration based on the type of success we've been seeing to date. So that nothing's been finalized. We're just still in the point of our season where we're getting results, interpreting them, and putting them out. And the planning phase will start likely early in the new year. So nothing's definitive yet, but I think with these kind of exceptional results, we're certainly going to want to be doing more work on this target. It's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. And do other targets exist on the Betty property, which might share?
Sure, yeah, the Betty property has about 6 targets that we know of already based on the work that's been done. A number of them with very large soil anomalies, and as people may or may not know, is the soil anomalies is a tool that we use to define these targets with the area not being glaciated. So there's several very large ones that we know. We keep doing our regional programs to find others. We've done a little bit of work on one of them to the east. This is the Mascot. That's seen some exceptional drill results. We didn't drill it this year. We drilled it a little bit more last year, and again, we saw some very high grades there. So there is if I had unlimited time and money, to drill all these, I would just keep going, 24/7. It's really a very sort of underexplored, highly prolific area that I think there's going to be many, many new discoveries and deposits found as the work is done.
Yeah, I think too, it's important to remember, like the first diamond drill hole that was drilled on the property was in 2021 when we did the initial drilling. A lot of these other targets that Dave is referring to have seen a very small amount of RAB drilling, but again, with mixed success in getting through bad ground. RAB drilling is really good, but sometimes it struggles as a drilling technique to get through bad ground. So, some of these targets really haven't been tested at all, in my opinion. So I think there's still lots of upside elsewhere on the property on some of these targets. We've got a good structural understanding, I think, at least at a property scale. And so really it's just a matter, I think, over time of, systematically testing these targets. And, I'm confident that we'll continue to get good results.
And then on that too, now the more like on the structural side, now with looking at the geochemistry, the more we drill and work Betty Ford, we're starting to really see kind of a unique geochemical signature, which defines or seems to define Betty Ford, which is really seems to be typified by a higher bismuth anomaly at surface. And we're seeing about a few other anomalies on the Betty property that have a similar geochemical signature as Betty Ford as well, which have our eyes. So, quite interested and looking forward to eventually testing those as well. So we're starting to learn, as Terry says, we have a lot of upside potential, a lot of excellent structure, geochemistry, as David was saying. So there's lots of places we can continue to look as well as we move forward on the Betty property.
Perfect, thanks. So I think that's all the questions we have for today. So thank you for taking us through the updates in the Q&A session. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. Today's recording will be available to watch on demand very shortly, so look out for that. Before we wrap up, just passing things back over to you, Dave. For any
that's great. Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate all the interest. If you couldn't tell, we're very excited about what we've seen. We have more results to come from the Betty Ford, so please stay tuned for that. And just really hope that what resonates here is this is such an exceptional target in a company that I think is very unique with the value we have in our significant defined gold resources and all this grassroots upside opportunity. Feel free to reach out anytime. We love to interact with all stakeholders. and stay tuned for more to come here.